Good evening and welcome to the Star Chamber Show live podcast. This great Wednesday evening here in Lexington, Kentucky, where I, Steven Zimmer, am broadcasting from for episode number 511. And we got a great show for you tonight. It's something that Holly and I are really looking forward to, the guest and the topics we will be covering. So, more on that in just a few minutes. Because, of course, we have our first segment because the Star Chamber Show is affiliated with the Imaginarium Convention. So, we want to give you all the latest news and updates on the 2026 event. Chat room is working good, and we got folks coming in already. And it looks like KB Carlisle is the first into the chat room tonight. So welcome to everybody. I say hi to Carol Pre-Flattish and Amy McCorkle and everybody I see coming into the chat room. Great bunch already. And Holly will be joining us in just a few minutes. She is up in Indiana. Yes, another Indiana adventure for Holly. So, yeah, she will be logging in here just in a few minutes. I didn't hear of anything going on to delay her too much. So she should be joining us in progress. But of course, I will keep you on course with the show. Don't you worry a bit, folks. One piece of business to give out. I know that a lot of you that follow the show, got some emails from Podbean about their great new decision not to have live shows after this month on the platform. Yes, yeah, we have addressed this in a few of the recent episodes. We will be porting over to another platform. We'll be giving you full information on that. To you all, it shouldn't skip a beat. Same thing. We'll have chat room. We'll be doing live shows we've always done for the last going on about 13 years. So, yeah, we will definitely be continuing in our format. We don't want to change that. We love live shows. Sometimes it can get a little raw around the edges, but live is fun. And I know that, I mean, in this age of 2026, live streaming is a huge part of things and live broadcasting. And so, yeah, I'm definitely surprised that Podbean, its platform, is making that decision. But, yeah, we don't want to compromise what we are. So, yeah, we'll be giving you the information on the new home, and we do plan to stay on course without missing an episode. So, we'll give you all that information very shortly. Anticipate doing that next week. And also want to thank everybody that got entries in for our film festival this year. We had probably close to about 60%. That's 60% more entries for 2026. We had a really robust late deadline period, and yeah, thank you. I mean, it's quite overwhelming to have a surge like that in one year, because last year was a record-setting year of entries, and then to actually go up about 60% in one year between all the entries that come in through Film Freeway and, of course, the International Screenwriters Association. That's wonderful. Yeah, we're definitely making some strides, seeing a lot of talent, and of course, we do hold back uh, portion of our official selection spots for our late deadline consideration. And then, of course, all of the screenplay finalists are pending as well. And then, of course, we have our independent filmmaker spotlight that we do on the Sunday of Imaginarium, and some projects that may not be official selections that we do feel merit showcasing, where we want to highlight the filmmaker involved, will be selected for that. So, yeah, we got a lot coming up in terms of announcements. So I would anticipate a big wave of announcements coming probably next week. So everybody's working hard right now, and we hope to have a bunch of announcements coming next week on that front. But far as new announcements go, today we did announce on the gaming page on Imaginarium, we did announce the first gaming schedule. It lists all the demos and all of the events and all of the different games that are being hosted. Of course, our gaming area is overseen by the fine folks at Bloat Games, and we give a big shout out to Josh Palmer from Bloat Games for running such a great gaming room. And so check all that out. I know there will be more listed, but we do have a great lineup of things that got posted today. So keep a lookout for all those games, tournaments, all the kind of good stuff, demos, and we know that some more demos from game designers are coming. So, and it looks like Holly has just entered the house. There she is.
What up? I am here.
There you are. I knew you were coming at some point. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, yes, I've had a day, but I am
Yeah,
here. I'm a state away, but yeah, I am here.
that's all right, as long as you are here, because I know, of course, listeners to the show love the Holly because you never can predict what the vivacious, loquacious, and audacious one is going to say or do on a given show. So,
That's
yeah, it's
true.
a lot of fun.
That's true.
It's a lot of fun, but I'll just continue with the updates and let
Rock
Holly get
on.
settled a little bit more because, yeah, she's got some more programming coming, which we'll be able to update you on next week. Some really good stuff that's going to be announced probably tomorrow, I would say. Some new panels in a workshop. But we do have some new guests, actually, several new guests to report. It's a great bunch. But we are welcoming to Imaginarium for the very first time SFX artists, filmmakers, and haunted attraction owners Amanda and Sean Joker Durkin has spotlighted guests. And yeah, these two are great. They are just such a creative couple, and they have been set designers, builders, scare actors, show directors. They've done special effects, lighting, sound effects, and animation programmers, and it's amazing the stuff they worked on. They've worked on TV shows like Bones, theme parks like Six Flags, and nightclubs in New York City and Las Vegas. And of course, they have a very popular haunted attraction now called Malice Manor. And those of you in the Louisville area probably know this place well. And yeah, they run it and they are owners of it. And we're excited to have them join us at Imaginarium because yeah, they're part of the whole storytelling thing, and we love to have a lot of participation from a lot of different areas, and this is going to be a lot of fun to have them. And then we also got another member of Kentucky Creature Effects, the great SFX and Makeup Effects production company here in the state of Kentucky, and that is makeup FX artist and artist Yasmin Granlund. So yes, she'll be joining Sven Granlund, Claude Miles, and Ronnie Jonah at Imaginarium. And yes, she's has extensive experience working across studio features and commercial productions with companies including Paramount, Hallmark, Hulu, Apple, and many more. And so, yeah, I mean, we're talking some people that really know their stuff. Be sure to check out the workshop that involves them that's listed. If you're into filmmaking or special effects or makeup, you do not want to miss that workshop. It's going to be a gem of a presentation. And then returning to Imaginarium as a panelist is the one and only thriller author Dan Kemp, who is back to defend his title because last year he did win the Imagine Award for Best Thriller. Yeah, definitely a great panelist. So glad to have him returning to Imaginarium, and yeah, he's going to be there to defend his title. And Imaginarium also welcomes for the very first time as an official panelist author Michael Small. And we're definitely glad to have Michael. He's been an attendee for a few years, but he's got a new book just on the horizon. Had his debut novel come out last year, so he's getting some great traction, and now he's ready to start doing panels. And so, yeah, we like to have opportunities for newer authors to be on panels as well as veteran authors, award-winning authors, and bestsellers, because it's good to have voices coming from all perspectives. And Michael's actually going to talk about some really important stuff involving the world of scammers in the world of the creatives, and how the scamming is just keeps getting worse and worse. I see the conversations just getting just terrible. Even an attempt was made on Jason Cordova, the who's an editor with Bain that I know, and he talked about his story openly on X, and I replied to him and said we have created a panel at Imaginarium to address precisely these kind of situations. So yeah, Michael's going to be on that panel because he's got some pretty tough tales to talk about in that area. We also welcome filmmaker, actor, and cosplayer Miles Jordan as an official panelist. Yes, award-winning actor Miles Jordan will be joining us as a panelist at Imaginarium for the first time. Very excited about having him aboard. And then finally, our latest guest announcement was publisher and cover artist Melissa Allen. We're very excited to have Melissa coming aboard with us for the very first time. So as you can tell, yeah, quite a group there. We got everything from Hollywood SFX artists to major haunted attraction owners to award-winning authors to new authors to a publisher just in the last week. So gives you an idea how life is at Imaginarium. So is there anything you got to add, Holly, before we recognize the folks that brought us tonight's show?
Well, let me tell you, you was talking about those scammers, and
Yeah,
I
they're
have
everywhere.
had a few emails of real people, real authors. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't, that have emailed me in the past just couple 3 weeks, asking if I had sent this weird email, and it was from an email that I don't even have, but they're using my name and adding like
Nope.
a P at the front,
Yeah,
and
cloning.
they're
Yeah.
trying to scam authors.
Yep.
And they're using Imaginarium name and all this stuff. And I'm like, buddy, I don't know what's going on, but I'm asking if anybody out there listening has got a weird email, please let me know because I'd like to have it because I want to try to report these and figure
Yeah.
out, where these are coming from because that is not cool. And we don't scam nobody. Anybody that knows
Yeah.
us knows that we're not scammers and never have been. We're in our
Well, that's not
13th year of Imaginarium. That's not how
it's
we
not
roll.
coming from us. It's fake emails.
And
It's
that's what it said.
fake
It's
stuff.
fake
Yeah.
all the way around. You could tell by the tone and everything. That's why people that know me are like, Holly, I got this weird email and this ain't you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that wasn't me.
Nope.
So yeah. So if anybody gets one of those, yeah, please just forward it to me and let me take a look at it if you would. So thank you.
Yeah, you gotta be savvier and savvier when it comes to these people because they will use logos. You'll get them from major
Yeah.
companies. You'll get things that you think are from PayPal, and you have a PayPal account. You get things from FedEx if you have a FedEx account, and you'll think it's FedEx, and they are phishing. And they'll have these strange emails that'll ask you to log in off there and this and that, and give their passwords and things like that. Sometimes it'll lots of different forms scamming comes in, but yeah, you got to be very savvy these days because they get pretty clever and they do try to mimic credible people and credible organizations and companies. So be very very careful about that, folks. That's definitely one of the things that we want to really start pushing his awareness of these kind of things, and that's why we added the panel to Imaginarium. So keep an eye out on that stuff. But yeah, we want to definitely keep on track time wise. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the folks that brought you tonight's show, and that would be League of Elder from Ren Garcia with the famous question, and Sandy Linder, the genre blender herself. Now here comes Sandy.
Did you know that fantasy author Sandy Lender offers more than epic fantasy novels for your escapist tendencies? Oh, my friends, Sandy's imagination can take you to all kinds of crazy or satirically vampiric or horrifying places. She even has soothing poetry to ease you through periods of grief. Visit author.sandylender.com to choose the exact adventure you need today.
And believe me, you can with Sandy Linder. Let me tell you, she is great. She writes in many genres. She does great cross genre fiction, and she has a great book tube channel called Sandy Says Read. So subscribe, and you get some great book content perspectives from her channel on YouTube. And here's a little bit from Ren Garcia, one of our favorite guys around. Here it goes.
The League of Elder dares to be unusual. It's easy to be swept away in this bold and uninhibited landscape where fantastic heroes become old friends and sinister villains inhabit every dark corner. Dare to explore things best left alone. Each book is your lantern, lighting the path to a world never before seen. So what do you say? Are you weird enough for us?
And as Holly always says, are
Are
you
you weird
weird
enough
enough
for
for us?
us, Ren Garcia?
Ren Garcia. Yes, that's right. But we love Ren. Support his League of Elders series. Fantastic books, and great guy. And we're just on the cusp of getting him to Imaginarium. So just corresponded with him just recently, in fact. So keep your fingers crossed, folks. Keep your fingers crossed. But I'm going to go ahead and roll right into the introduction to keep us on time. We're just just about a few seconds behind. Not too bad at all. But we want to tonight roll out the red carpet, folks, because that's right. That's right. We have a new guest coming in tonight who's making their Star Chamber Show debut. And he writes short rule supplements for the Dungeons and Dragons tabletop role playing game that are sold on the DM's Guild website. He's a writer, he is a game designer, and he is known also for his Smoke and Thunder series, which is all about firearms and tech in terms of game playing in the D&D world, among much more, in addition to being an experienced photographer and also was formerly a bookseller. Yes, folks, indeed. So it's my honor and pleasure to bring on to the Star Chamber Show for the very first time, and hopefully for many more, Joshua Ohmer. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are glad to have you.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is going to be fun. We
Yes.
don't get a whole lot of game designers. We get a few here and there, and of course, authors love to talk to game designers and hear about them because a lot of authors like to actually, take their characters and throw them into a role play game. You know,
Sure.
that's always
Absolutely.
fun. Have you
Yeah.
ever done that? Have you ever like collaborated with an author and written in their character?
No, I haven't done that. I don't
Yeah.
I don't work too much with I haven't done any collaborations professionally, and I'm not outside of my home gaming. I'm not a big narrative writer. There's a lot of people out there who write adventures for D&D, and I'm more focused on like options for people to create their characters using.
Yeah, that
Fun.
looking over everything that was offered on DM's Guild, I mean, it looked really exciting. And I do, before the show gets too far, I do want to commend you on your hair because both Holly and I are
Yes.
children of the '80s, and so we do appreciate that very much. And you have some of the best hair that we've seen out there in the creative world. So
When
just
I
wanted
first seen you, I was like, "You've got to see Joshua's hair." I said, "You've got to see my new LinkedIn friend. You've got to see this hair." And Steven's like, "Hell yeah!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like my hair." So
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is. It is.
It's
Yeah.
great. So we want
a
to
lot of
commend you
fun.
on that while we're at it. But yeah, but getting back to the writing and the game design side, yeah, you've got an impressive group of guides, and that's what I noticed. It was a lot of stuff that was tools and topics that were helping people, with playing in the D&D world. Do you want to give a little overview about what your guides exactly are and the kind of territory you cover on that?
Absolutely. I cover two different realms of character creation. The biggest by both popularity and page count is a series called Smoke and Thunder, which consists of 4 guides to technology generally, but more specifically firearms, both throughout history, modern era, and futuristic time periods. The first book, just entitled Smoke and Thunder Firearms for 5th Edition, introduces over 60 firearms to the game, divides those over 7 time periods from the late Middle Ages to Star Trek, Star Wars, Buck Rogers kind of sci-fi, and then the second book gives the same treatment to cannons, explosives, grenades, that sort of thing. The third guide covers magical versions of those, and each of them also covers other forms of technology that would be relevant, such as armor that's hardened to deal with firearms, that sort of thing. The other realm that I cover is species design. The D&D used to call them races, now calls them species. It's the physical, like, magical creature that you are. Whether you're a human or an elf or a dwarf, or in my case, I'm writing how to be a mind flayer or a succubus or a nymph or a selkie, what have you. And I've got 27 of those at this point. They're all real short, 1 to 5 pages. 1 to 8, I think the longest one is 8 pages. And yeah, they give a little background on the species, whether it's been adapted from classic monsters in the game or whether it's from mythology, and then provide you with stats on how to generate a character.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know Holly is probably partial to the succubuses or succubi, I should say, the succubi. And I have to say, after Stranger Things, your Mind Flayer one probably got a big boost.
Yeah. I didn't start out watching Stranger Things until it was in its third or fourth season, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so when I finally did, I was like, oh, that's why I saw a sudden boost.
I bet you did, and because that was a lot of fun for us because it took us back. Because I actually go back to the basic set of D&D and the advanced Dungeons and Dragons set, like the
Awesome.
OG sets.
Yeah.
I remember playing those growing up when I was 11, 12, 13, and it was just such a fun time. And then of course obviously it's evolved quite extensively by now, and it's but I did get back into it, Joshua. Yeah, we just a few years ago, we did get back into playing Dungeons and Dragons again. So I can say I've, returned. So
Yeah.
I'm, I'm playing again.
Yeah, a lot of people who had dipped out have gotten back with fifth edition. It's just the accessibility of the current rules is so great, and obviously it's gotten a boost from Stranger Things, like you said, and from all of these actual play streaming shows, whether they be video or podcast, is just exploded in popularity the past few years.
Well, and I think people like too that, like the D&D Beyond, where they don't have to like calculate their die. It'll do it for you. It rolls for you. It does, so people are finding it easier, and maybe people that couldn't afford to get all the gear, all the die, all the different stuff, can play, or they couldn't find anybody to play with. They can now get into groups, go online, social media, and actually join groups and get in a game.
Yeah, virtual tabletops are great for getting people involved.
Yeah, Holly's son plays weekly through Zoom with four other people in the campaign. So yeah, they don't even meet physically together, but they play every week online, and so that's a new dimension that wasn't there certainly when I was growing up.
Right.
It was just pre internet or online. So, but that's a cool aspect of it all, and definitely the resources, and that's where you come in. I mean, yeah, the resources are out there and accessible, and it's less expensive to be able to buy. Obviously digital versions of things. At times, books can get pretty pricey, as we all know.
Oh, absolutely.
Search eBay, and yes, I do have some of those original books, Joshua, and I'm hanging on to them. I've got some of those early ones.
Yeah, I'm a big time book hoarder myself. Yeah. I have honestly, I started playing in second edition AD&D, but I have collected books older than that just to see the roots of the game and hang on to those collectibles.
Yep, it's fun. Yeah, especially when you see some of the artwork and some of the early stuff, and then where it's come today, and it's like the old Keep on the Borderlands module, and versus kind of artwork you saw later. It's fun to watch the evolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's
the line drawings were so I mean, there's nostalgia to them, but they were, kind of cheesy. And now we've got this just, absolutely sophisticated, beautiful artwork.
Right.
Most of it, I mean, yeah, a lot of it digital, but so skilled, so creative, and just, I mean, I've seen works for D&D or Magic the Gathering that I would put up on the wall.
Oh, in a heartbeat, and
Oh, with
certainly,
with that. Oh, Magic the Gathering, yes. When they did Selesnya, oh my God, I love
Yes.
Selesnya. All that artwork, man, it was just absolutely gorgeous. I still have those cards and that deck, and and that the starter deck that was originally put out. I have it, and several cards I built up. But yeah, that's a beautiful deck, and I love elves. I love elves,
I
elves
love
and
elves.
vampires.
Yes. Yeah, elves and fae for me.
Oh
Mainly,
yeah,
like,
those are
yeah,
fun.
any kind of fae creature, whether it's elven, or like I mentioned, one of my big products is Nymphs of Myth, which takes dryads and other Greco-Roman nymphs from mythology, and makes them playable. I love doing that kind of stuff.
yeah, and yeah,
That's fun.
as an author, I love writing those kinds of, beings and creatures and things like that, and I do have them in a lot of my books, and yeah, definitely, and this the storytelling that's in Dungeons and Dragons, what was influential on me as a writer and author, and so I think it is for a lot of writers that write in fantasy, or and all the various subgenres related to it, or steampunk and things like that. Because yeah, I love hearing about your firearms guide, because I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
wow, I mean, you cover everything from arquebuses up to revolvers, probably, to rail guns to laser guns and everything in
Yep.
between. So
Yep.
it's like that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It grew out of my home campaign. Like, it was, I had a world that spanned multiple eras of technology. Every faction was at a different development level. So I realized that there weren't rules to handle that kind of tech, and so I started writing them for home, and then was like, wait a minute, there might be a market for this.
So yeah, tell us the story about how that evolved and how you got to, writing the guides in a way that you could, and have a market, and then how you chose the market and got that side of things going from the publishing end.
Sure. Well, I mean, like I said, I started with a home campaign that I ran for a few different years. It was basically fantasy, D&D meets Star Wars. Evil empire with higher tech colonizes a fantasy world, and subjugates the people, and they rebel. But that meant that I had heroes who did not have access to firearms, and bad guys who did. And the rules that I'd seen for firearms, like through multiple editions of D&D, had always focused on, well, firearms are powerful because they deal a lot more damage.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that didn't feel right. First of all, narratively, it was unbalanced. Like, it puts the heroes on the back foot. It puts it means that stylistically, if you're if that's a part of your campaign but it's not a part of your character, then you're making a suboptimal choice, and some people don't like to do that. So I started looking at like, how I could make firearms rules interesting, not just not just here's 3d12 of damage or whatever, but here's something that is different, but not more, but not overly powerful. And so I iterated through my home game. I basically foisted playtesting onto my players, that first we tried, a laser gun is just like a crossbow, only it deals fire damage instead of piercing. And that was okay, but firearms, at least advanced firearms, don't need to reload with every shot. So now you've got to introduce magazine sizes and things like that. And I started thinking, okay, what is it about firearms that makes them historically really makes them different? And it wasn't that that firearms were invented and suddenly just steamrolled every bowmen and everything. Like, they coexisted for a long time. Crossbows, longbows coexisted with early guns for at least a couple of centuries. So I was like, okay, I looked at the historical resources. What is it that caused some people to adopt, some armies to adopt these weapons and others not to? And it's the ease of use. So much, so many times that D&D has tried to implement firearms, people push back because you've got the faction that's like this is a sword and sorcery game versus this is medieval history game. And I get it, it's not for everyone. I'm not like a gun guy myself. That wasn't like what I set out to do. I'm not like I don't shoot. That's not my thing. I'm a historical person. I'm interested in history.
Right.
So I looked at it from a historical warfare point of view, and I was like, oh, longbows take constant training. You've got to build up those muscles. You've got to build up those reflexes. Firearms were largely adopted not because they were more powerful, but because they were easier to train people on. And so the first thing I did was I made them not this exotic thing that only certain characters have access to. I didn't want a gunslinger class. I didn't want, which is fine. I know that I believe Critical Role introduced a gunslinger and made that a big thing. But I wanted, if a wizard wants to pick up a pistol and shoot it, I wanted them to be able to do so. So I said, mechanically, they're simple weapons, not martial weapons, mostly. It depends. Like, a pistol is simple, or a musket might be martial because it does take more drilling and things like that. But yeah, I developed what I thought made the most sense historically, and then I found myself with some time on my hands and decided to look into the publishing platforms. I was like, okay, awesome. They publish spelled. What's that?
I said that's awesome.
Yeah. So about the time that Wizards of the Coast released Spelljammer for 5th edition was when I was really working on this. They released Spelljammer, and traditionally there have been guns. There's a whole species of called the GIF, who are hippos who were known for wielding firearms, and there just wasn't that much support in the setting books for firearms. I mean, there was a little bit, but they really didn't flesh it out. It was just like, oh, right. And here, here's a gun. Here's a gun for the GIF to use. And I was like, okay, well, that's a missed opportunity. I'd better I've done the work. I need to polish it up and get it out there. Like, people are like, this is, strike while the iron is hot. This is what people are going to be looking for. Right. And so I did some research into the different digital platforms that are available. And I'd been a longtime customer of Drive-Thru-RPG, which is a family of websites, effectively, that sell PDF and other types of content for really any role-playing game. And their DM's Guild program, dmsguild.com, is a branch of that has the specific is given the specific like very official the official platform, chosen by Wizards of the Coast for
Right.
for fan created content, and that gives you you could there are other places I could publish. There's Itch. There's there's a number of game based marketplaces. But DM's Guild gives you more access to their IP. You're allowed to use things like mind flayers that are considered Wizards of the Coast intellectual property that they
Right.
otherwise would not let fan content get away with using. In exchange, the site takes a little bit larger cut of your royalties than other platforms might. But I thought it was worth it to have the freedom to just go hog wild and not have to worry about like censoring what
Right.
Right.
what I do and
Copyrights.
don't use. Yeah, copyrights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as it turns out, like Smoke and Thunder really, they're equipment guides. They don't really touch on anything that would have needed that extra leeway. But the very first species that I put out was mind flayers. So as you know, it was a good idea when I did that. And the most recent one I've done is Rakshasas, which I'm not sure where they fall on the spectrum, but I like Rakshasas, which come originally from like Eastern mythology, specifically like Hindu and Buddhist scriptures. They like the specific depiction that D&D has popularized is very specifically D&D, and so once again I'm glad that I'm able to use to use their IP and not have to tread too lightly. They even make some of their older art available for use on DM's Guild products. So
nice.
Yes, yeah, it's a great deal. They make bundles of downloadable images that you can use in anything on the guild.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a really nice resource, which obviously they don't have to let people do, but they decide to support the platform this way. So with Rakshasas, with Illithids or Mind Flayers, I was able to use those for my cover art. Whereas for most of my products, I use public domain resources, old oil paintings, photographs of museum artifacts, things like that. Wikipedia Commons is a great resource. You just got to pay attention to the attributions and make sure you credit things appropriately. But there's so much stuff on Wikipedia. Most of those images are released under Creative Commons license. So
I had no clue.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great resource for any writer, and there are lots of other public domain and Creative Commons resources out there, but that's the one that I find most convenient most of the time, because it's very searchable, very you can and it's more than just what's on Wikipedia's like articles. People in the same spirit where people volunteer to edit and maintain the articles, they also photographers will sometimes upload photos of their own and say, hey, this is if somebody wants to use this in an article someday, here it is. So it's a whole wealth of of illustrative content.
See, I know, like I noodle around like on Pixabay. I've always liked Pixabay. I think it's really cool because you can upload photos for people to use, and you can accredit people and use their photos and
Hmm.
throw them in Adobe and manipulate them or whatever. People don't care. Just
Yep.
give them a credit for the OG photo, and yeah. So I think that's a really neat, creative area for photography.
Yeah. That's a good. Pixabay is a good site. I've used Pixiv, and a number of others. Uh, but just for my because I do so much historical and mythological stuff, it turned out that Wikipedia was really the source for it was the one stop shop for me. I ended up gravitating there after trying a number of places.
Nice, very nice, and yeah, and I think and I love listening to you talk about some of the inspirations for as you integrated things for ideas and your approach for developing like Smoke and Thunder. 'Cause I was thinking of some popular culture stuff where you do get a little bit of a taste of where you can put like guns into a higher medieval setting or something like that. I think of movies like The Last Samurai, for instance, where they
Oh yeah.
obviously had the samurai using bows and firearms have come into the scene and there's a clash there. Then I couldn't help again. This is gonna date me as an '80s kid again. But we were talking about your early campaign that had the evil force coming in from another world that was higher tech versus the lower tech, more fantasy group that's down on the planet. I couldn't help but think of the movie Krull.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, which I adored as a kid. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought of that when you were talking about that. And I was thinking, yeah, I mean, I remember back then. I was like, wow, I remember when I was playing D&D back then, how cool it'd be to play a setting like that in D&D. But at the time, there wasn't a lot of a lot of stuff that we could draw off of to make an adventure like that. There wasn't a resource like yours that we could create that exact setting,
Yeah.
to take care of the kind of weapons that one side had, and so, or to reproduce something like you see in The Last Samurai, where you have one side have access to some kind of like earlier type of firearm, and on the other side longbows and things like that. So I mean, you didn't have a lot of mechanics that you could do in that time, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's great that you address this area for sure in such a way that's comprehensive, even across different periods, and not making it so it's so powerful, like you just come in, it's not like you went in and armed the Huscarls at the Battle of Hastings with AKs or something like that.
Right.
Right.
You just
Right.
take out everyone. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like that's something that was really important to me, was that like yeah, modern firearms are more powerful than medieval or Renaissance ones, but the like there like I wanted there to end up being some trade-offs. Like, yes, you've got an option for automatic, but also most automatic weapons are smaller caliber, so I gave them a slightly smaller damage die. Just little trade-offs here and there. And in D&D, it's all about the action economy. Like you can only attack however many times you can attack. Automatic fire gives an area attack, but at the cost of a whole lot of ammo. And so I wanted to make running out of ammo be like a thing, like not like there I it was important to me that because
It
D&D
doesn't like
combats.
materialize out of thin air and you've got a full gun again.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
and of course you can reload, but I wanted to make like I was careful about the action economy, that reloading is not it's quick, but it's not like you are going to have to stop and think about it. Like it's not something, it's not something that's going to come up all the time. But if you're just spraying a hail of bullets every round, you probably will have to reload before the end of combat, and that is going to eat part of a turn. Not a whole turn, but a part of a turn. And so it, sometimes you might want to drop the empty weapon and draw your sword instead. Like it's I find limitations to be where interest and excitement come from in a story, even during combat.
Oh yeah, because I mean, in one of the adventures we had, the DM in our scenario, they had, and this is in today, like it's a few couple of years ago, had one of our characters, a friend's characters, had some black powder pistols, and in the middle of the battle, one of the pistols blows up in his face,
Yeah,
and yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's little surprises that a DM could throw in there to really mess with the characters a little bit in the
that's
action
fun.
Yeah,
based on how
absolutely.
the firearms work. And so
Absolutely.
yeah, you can definitely add that to story. And yeah, and you do have to calculate the reload and things like that, especially with older forms of firearms.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing. I didn't want to nerf them too badly because the reload time on an early firearm can be a full minute. Well, D&D combat is over by then. So
Right, right.
I looked at obviously in D&D crossbows can fire once a round. They historically take quite a while to reload. So I was like, well, if a crossbow can do it, then so can a musket, or an arquebus. So I kept them around the same rate, though I didn't use quite the same mechanic. Just to make them a little more just to distinguish between them. But you mentioned gun blowing up on a character. I didn't want to make that a common occurrence. Of course, everybody likes to narrate. Oh, you rolled a 1. Well, you drop your weapon, or this is what happens. So I leave that up to the DM. But I did include some spells that are themed around firearms, and one of them is cause misfire. So you can use someone else's gun against them.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, 'cause even if you have a
Love
modern, like an assault rifle, for lack of a better term,
Yep.
It could jam right in the
Absolutely.
middle of the fight,
it. Yeah.
and that does present a problem if it's a fight.
Absolutely, it
Right in the
does.
middle of
Yeah.
it.
And you got to
Yes.
think about this. It goes over to even narrative writing and novels. You have to think of these things, so it's plausible. And like Steven said, what is it? Suspended belief is what you
Yeah,
call it. You got to
suspension of
make it
disbelief.
believable.
Yeah, suspension of
Uh,
disbelief, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even if it is sci-fi, even if it is totally fiction, you still have to have that nuance of some kind of it makes it believable, and you don't just have a kill all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't ever
something
want to
to there.
let someone be the lone person who can take out everything and be better than everyone else, because
Right.
Right.
not only is that not believable, but when we're talking about a role-playing game, this is a collaborative.
Right. It's not fun then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun. It's no fun for the DM if the players can steamroll every enemy. It's no fun for the players if the monsters can always win, and it's no fun for the other players if one player shines above the rest. So D&D, we can debate till we're blue in the face whether D&D is a balanced game, but I like to at least try and be as balanced as the rest of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely has to have a little playability for sure, rather than one character. I mean, just wiping the floor with everything.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
boring pretty quick.
if one person is Superman, then why is everybody else there?
Right. But
Exactly.
but I think
Yeah,
that's
because
part
they're
of the
pretty
challenge
much
with the
playing on
DM.
their own.
Yeah, I think a good DM, that's one of their challenges is to manage that and make sure that doesn't happen.
Oh yeah,
Obviously, yeah, for sure.
right.
But yeah, we've been talking a little bit about your, your firearm area. But yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the other stuff, some of the creature stuff for like Nymphs of Myth, because I understand you're also working on a sequel to it right now with.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Very early stages on that one. I'm just really brainstorming. But Nymphs of Myth, subtitled Dryads and Their Kin, uh, is a guide to playing nymph characters as they appear in Greek mythology, essentially. Um, dryads have been a part of every version of D&D, and dryads are one of the classical types of nymph. um, Nymphs have appeared in most versions of D&D as a potential antagonist, because D&D is all about their monsters. um, but for some reason have not made the cut in any of the fifth edition books, except, and I put a big asterisk on this one, except Theros campaign guide, which is one of their attempts at adapting one of their Magic the Gathering settings or planes into a D&D campaign setting. But in Theros, nymphs are basically elementals. Like a water
Hmm.
nymph is made of water, a fire nymph is made of fire.
Right.
Traditionally, they're beautiful women who are guardians of the forests and the mountains and the seas, and their beauty is so beguiling that people become magically charmed, completely enamored. And But they talk to animals, and they help, traditionally have aided heroes on their quests.
Mhm.
Well, I wanted to bring them into fifth edition, but I also wanted to make them not just support characters, but someone that you can play as a player character. And so I created 8 subspecies, because looking at Greek mythology, and I here I go with Wikipedia again. I used it. I do use print media, but Wikipedia is a great starting resource.
Yep, it is.
The lists of types of nymph, I it's
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah.
There's like 50 different varieties. I don't know, and it's some of them are named for what kind of environment they live in. Some are named for the specific mountain or river or island they live on. Some of them are
Mhm.
named for just a force of nature or a constellation. Um, so I whittled it down to 8 types that I felt were like iconic enough to represent as main characters. So we've got star nymphs, wind nymphs, fresh and salt water, mountain. Let's see. Lampads, which are the like the underworld nymphs, essentially. They, they,
Mhm.
they were they were the guardians of Hecate. And then uh, it'll come to me. Anyway, there are
Yeah.
8, there are 8 different types that I went with. They are, I said I like to keep things balanced. I will admit some of my species are a little overpowered sometimes, but because being able to charm people is rather powerful. But it's there's a limit to how often you can do it, and obviously if you or your allies do anything negative to them, they get to break the spell. Um, but each of these 8 subtypes has a description of what they do, where they live, what they're connected to. Dryads in D&D have always been associated with the idea that if you cut down their tree, they die. That, of course, would be really bad for a player character. So I was like, you get really sad. It's you wherever you are in the world, if your tree is cut down, you feel it happen, and it's you have a really bad day and probably want to go avenge yourself. So I gave each subtype their own equivalent of that. Obviously, as river nymph is going to hate it if the river's polluted. Star nymphs are a little trickier because how do you chop down the stars? But I wanted them to have something equivalent, so I was like, if Cthulhu cultists are using your stars for black magic, then you feel it, and it's not good on you. But yeah, I this was one of my favorites to write because in addition to the game content, I also gave some of the mythological background. I explained some ideas about how to incorporate ideas from Greek mythology into a standard D&D fantasy setting if you're not playing a Greek mythology game. And I also took those additional types of elemental nymphs from Theros and gave variant ways to play those as well because I figured why not. But like you said, I'm working on a sequel. Right after I finished the first one, I was like, a cold nymph would be really good. What would I call it? Cryo is Greek for cold, but there are no frost nymphs in Greek mythology because there's not a whole lot of tundra in Greece. So I kind of put that on the back shelf. And recently it hit me that I could come up with other like remote locations, terrain types that don't appear in Greek mythology and give them their own nymph type. So I'm going to do like deserts and swamps and tundra and probably a few others, and do a sequel. And essentially, these are the little more out there, fantasy, not just mythological, but fantastical varieties.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you just head north and play among the Scythians for a while, and you have plenty of tundra.
Right.
But I was thinking as you're doing this, I mean, there is so much you can play with because, for instance, one of my franchise characters is based on Puebloan cultures, and also another of my characters goes down to cultures that are more in Central and South America, ancient cultures there, and in my research, I've come across lots of Fey type creatures that are down in all those areas, and and of course, up in what we might term the Native American cultures, in the U.S. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of directions you could go even beyond. This. I mean, once you start branching out, there's a big playground for nymphs and Fey type creatures. Once you start looking at some of these cultures.
Oh yeah.
And, you definitely got a lot of fertile ground to play with, and it wouldn't probably be much of a stretch to be able to kind of relate them to the ones you base in the Greek mythologies to bring them in from the other kind of cultures too. But yeah, there's a lot of turf for you to play in.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean, I've mostly stuck with they say write what you know, and that's very like what you're talking about is very cool. I may have to look into that. I've mostly stuck with either creatures that are already in the game, or things that things that I'm familiar with from fairy tales, or like I said, Greek mythology or Egyptian mythology. I've got mummies as a playable species. I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft, so I've got I've got deep ones and even even Migo as a playable species.
I love the Lovecraft mythos. Yeah, as far as a lot of the stuff that you encounter there with the elder gods and everything there. So yeah, that's some fun stuff for sure.
Oh
And
yeah, and D&D has drawn from that
yeah,
from the beginning. There
oh
was
yeah,
that first edition deities and demigods that had the Cthulhu mythos in it, and then
oh yeah,
they had they had to reprint it without it, and that became a collector's
Right.
item. But mind flayers are essentially human sized Cthulhu's.
Cthulhu's,
And
yeah.
yeah,
On
and
land, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you've got Kuotoa are what supposedly Gary Gygax just directly lifted deep ones from H.P. Lovecraft and just called them Kuotoa or menfish.
yeah.
But so that's another species that I made a playable version of. The thing I love about that one is that one of the fun things about Kuotoa is that in the game they are known to be able to like dream up their own deities that no one else has ever heard of, and they become real because they're in touch with extra dimensions or have extra perception or just are just crazy enough that it just works for some reason. And so like when I decided to make them a playable species, I was like, okay, they're aquatic, they can breathe underwater, they're known to be able to secrete a substance that can make their weapons and shields sticky. Okay, so that's a thing they can do. But I also decided, well, you have to give them this option. It's not built into the species, but there's a feat they can take if they want to be able to dream up their own deities and gain spells without having to become a cleric because they're just making up their own deities and therefore their own powers.
And one that's going to make Holly really happy now, and I'm going to bring this one up because a lot of folks at our convention love to cosplay in this particular area. But you're working on Steam and Thunder, a steampunk guide.
Yes.
D&D. How cool is that?
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a long-term project. It keeps ballooning bigger. I'm coming up with more ideas for it faster than I'm executing the ideas I already had. But it is gonna be the first Smoke and Thunder Presents spinoff. So it's going to cover. Of course, how to make your firearms and technology more steampunk. But it's also going to lean into things like the social aspects of steampunk. Like I'm working on essentially a social combat system where you can use witty repartee as a weapon. And pull rank. There's going to be a maneuver called "Do you know who I am?" Things like that. And there's also going to be spells and classes and subclasses for invention and tinkering and engineering and using super science as your power. Which is kind of a takeoff of D&D's artificer class, which to me is a wizard who uses who uses a toolbox as their in place of a staff or crystal ball. Like they're still a spellcaster. I want someone who builds stuff and they're just building stuff. They're inventing crazy stuff, and it might be kind of magical, but they're not casting spells to do it. And so
Right.
that's going to be a big component of Steam and Thunder. So that's and of course, you've got to have new monsters for that. So there will be things like a steam golem and
Cool.
mechanical colossus and all of these types of things, and
Nice.
little clockwork automata, and
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
it'll
was thinking of something like little gears or cryptid, or something made of
yeah.
gears, and yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And D&D has had steampunk elements before I think the word steampunk was around, at least before it was a
Yeah,
popular
yeah.
term.
Right, common. Mm.
Yeah, so there's always been the idea that that gnomes invent crazy science stuff, and that dwarves are super craftsmen, and in some settings that means they use steam engines and things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a stretch to incorporate those things. I just I really want to expand on the options that are available, and really lean into that as an option.
Well, when you are ready, yeah, we have to introduce. Hey, Holly, we're gonna have to introduce him to Jennifer Naran.
Yes,
She's the
the
captain of the
queen bee.
yes
Yeah.
of the airship Caduceus steampunk cosplay group here, and I know there's a lot of gamers in the
Captain, no
group.
captain.
They will love this. They will love this when it comes out.
And she's also the queen bee from Cincinnati,
Yeah,
Steam. So,
Really? Okay. I'm
yeah.
originally from Cincinnati.
Well,
yeah,
there you go. She's the
yep,
queen bee, and we love her dearly, and she's great. And
yeah.
yeah, she would
So,
love this. And
yeah,
then
she would
Awesome.
KB
love this.
Carlisle, who's in, I wanted to tell you, he's in the chat room. He's an author, and he is a big D&D fan,
Yeah,
super fan.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he
he is.
says you take a 4d6 emotional damage if your tree dies.
I like that. I like that. Hey, I am all for DMs. Throwing in whatever aspect they want to reinforce a story element. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Emotional damage. I like it.
That's awesome. I do want to touch on one more because I know there's one other project that looks very interesting. Now, I am willing to be eternally vigilant if you can, you're going to teach me how to be granted immortality, evidently, in your Dustborn project. So I'm excited
Well, I
about
want to know this because I've been waiting.
this.
Okay, so to talk about that one, I need to mention another one. So I created one a few months ago called Unfettered, which is how to be a lich, basically. It's in D&D, a lich is the immortal undead spellcaster, wizard or sage who has plumbed the secrets of immortality, and given up, basically given up at least a part of their soul in exchange for their not being able to die.
Right.
And I've seen different approaches to that. I've seen it done as a class, a prestige class, or something like that. A capstone ability, a feat, something like that. And I was like, what about there's subclasses in fifth edition are very strictly tied to a single class. So how can a sorcerer or a warlock or a wizard or a cleric all become become a lich? And I was like, well, I've been doing the answer to that. Everything's a species now. So I was like, it doesn't matter if you're a human or an elf. Like changing into a lich completely changes you. Like you're just going to replace whatever you had from from being whatever you were to being a lich. That was my first attempt at immortal characters. For Dustbound, so I can't take credit for the idea. A friend of mine came up with this in another game, but they had a character who was from a long line of folks who had sworn themselves to protect a holy shrine, essentially, and basically whoever controlled that shrine, this group of people, couldn't die. Couldn't die. As long as the shrine stood, essentially, and that sounds cool until you are killed in combat over and over and over again, and your body your body has long decayed, and you are made of the dust of the dust of the earth, the sand of the desert, and each morning after you're slain, you're reconstituted and get back up. And I thought, that could that that sounds very powerful. It is very powerful in D&D because mostly not dying is what you're trying to do. But
trying to stay alive.
Yeah, exactly. But orc and half orc characters in D&D have an ability to get back up. If they're knocked to 0 hit points, they can choose to stand back up at 1 hit point and keep fighting. And they can only use that once per day. But there is some precedent for getting knocked down and getting back up. This one would I haven't worked out the details yet, but the gist is you get knocked down and you stay down until tomorrow, which is not going to be the most attractive option for a lot of players, because that takes you out of the action. So I'm hoping that's a balancing factor. But I think it could be a fun type of D&D character to play. Is someone who just who can't perish, even if they are tired of this oath and want to, they just gotta keep on keeping on.
Well, the life of the indie author often feels like that, so I already have the sense it's like. but yeah, I do like
think
it
any
a lot.
creative feels that way. It's starving artists for a reason.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Definitely. But yeah, that sounds like it sounds like you got your hands full going forward. I mean,
yeah, I do.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff going on. But I definitely don't want to, like I said, take your time tonight. But what is what's ahead for you in the coming year or so beyond? Are you mainly going to be working on these projects? Do you do appearances? What would you like to highlight for folks that's coming up for you in 2026?
I would. that's tough to say. I have not done any kind of appearances. I've been writing and publishing for 4 years, and this is probably the highest profile thing I've done. I've done one podcast before.
Well, we need to get this fixed.
Yeah,
we need to get you to Imaginarium.
I'll even drop you an email about that.
Okay,
sure.
I will. We have gaming all weekend too, and we do 150 panels and workshops all about creative writing, all around creative writing, game design. We have a film festival. We have, there's all kinds of creatives there, and you can run games. You can run some of your modules and bring them and work with our game host. It would be fantastic.
I love the publishing aspect of it that you talked about tonight, with publishing these guides on the DMs Guild, and the way that Wizards of the Coast has kind of worked with them, and allowed you to use content from their properties for the development of your content, and I love that kind of yeah, it's a little bit collaborative there from their end. Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, like I said, there are lots of
The
other
IP.
platforms. There are lots of completely independent creators who aren't using, using this and working so closely. And, obviously there's lots of great game designers making their own systems and working
Sure.
outside of D&D. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a fantastic resource for those of us who are creating within the game.
Yeah, I always love kind of seeing how different publishing models work, and especially when somebody with a larger IP, allows people to come in and play in their
Yeah.
world and how that works. And because there's a lot of people, well, with writers, they write in shared worlds or they write in somebody's world in an anthology and things like that. And it's kind of neat that to hear about this in the gaming world where Wizards of the Coast is allowing someone like you to create with some of their official stuff, and publish it. So that's really cool. I love hearing those kind of stories.
Yeah, and
To
there
play
are
around with their stuff. That's fun.
yeah, it is. Yeah, and there are other publishers who have also partnered with Drive Through RPG for their own. They call them all community creator programs. And so like Chaosium with Call of Cthulhu has their own platform within that website. Oh gosh, I think. World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, those I think have their own sub-platform there where they do the same sort of thing. There's a number of different major, some of the major companies that do
Cool.
partner on Drive Through RPG.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with Drive Through RPG in general. Certainly, I hear about them all the time from people that I run into that are into the gaming world, and yeah, it's a great site. And but yeah, it's nice to be able to explore this particular area tonight with you because I definitely learned a lot about the DMs Guild. This is really cool. And so if folks want to check out like your stuff that you have published and also to follow you in your future projects, how did they do that as far as online, like
Okay,
social
well,
media, websites, anything like that?
my main social platform right now is Blue Sky. So you can find me at ravenquill.bsky.social. That's my use Ravenquill, some punctuation of that on most platforms, but I've abandoned Twitter for reasons.
Yeah.
But
Understandable.
You ain't alone.
yeah.
Understandable.
But Blue Sky has been a pretty good alternative. It's very very active. A lot of creators there.
Mhm.
So that's where I post all my news and all of my promotions. I'm wanting to start to maybe start up with short content on YouTube and TikTok, but I have not done that yet. So maybe that's something to watch for in the next few months or so. But
Sure.
if you want to purchase my content on DM's Guild, unfortunately they don't give us our own URLs. But go to dmsguild.com and search up Joshua Ohmer or Smoke and Thunder, and you will find my content there.
I
There
found
you
it
go,
easily.
KB.
I
KB's
went.
gonna
I
be checking
Yeah.
your socials
Awesome.
out. So
I would let you talk about your where to find you before I said this, but yeah, I found it very easy to find your catalog on DM's Guild, and
Good.
it was great to check that out. And I personally happen to be on Blue Sky, so is Imaginarium, so is the Star Chamber Show. All three have accounts there, so we will definitely. I'll make sure all three are following you.
Great. And I'll make sure to follow back.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure all three are connected with you because yeah, it is. There's a lot of great creators that I've been seeing, and it's been nice to watch the platform grow over there. So yeah, definitely look out for me there.
Great.
But I have just had a blast talking with you
yes, it's
tonight.
been fun.
this has been an area that, like I said, we don't often get to go into writing for tabletop gaming as much as we'd like to. So it was
Yeah.
a real lot of fun for
Well,
us
and
to
that's why I
visit
want
with
to
you tonight.
talk to you more about Imaginarium. We'll see what we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do.
yeah. We
It's
Absolutely.
hope
only
to
Yeah.
a
do.
couple of months away this year,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, if you can make
yeah.
it work, that'd
Well,
be
he's in
awesome.
Indiana. He's in Indiana, so this
Oh,
is not.
heck,
Yeah,
you're well, I'm in Indiana
yeah,
right now, but I'm normally in Kentucky. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not too far away.
yeah. Not too far away.
fantastic.
But I just want to thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope this is the first of other visits to come in the future. And definitely gonna do my part to spread the word on Raven Quill for sure.
Love the
And
name.
love the
Thank you.
name. Holly, absolutely. Our house is half covered in Raven imagery, so yeah, as
And I have a
Nice.
granddaughter named Raven too. So
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
it's
and
serendipitous.
we're all about writing. So Raven Quill is
Yep.
And I
you're
love
perfect.
Edgar.
You're perfect, and
Yes.
you have some of the best hair we've ever seen. So we already love
Yes,
you.
I'm
So
Thank
impressed.
you.
so but I'll turn you over to Holly to wrap things up. But thanks for joining us tonight, Joshua. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, Holly.
Yeah, don't be a stranger, and I will be in touch. Probably tomorrow. I will try to get those links to you and have you check it out, and then we can discuss anything, any questions or things that you may have.
Awesome. Well, I'll look forward to it.
All right, you have a good evening, and yeah, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, great. You have a great one.
All right, good night.
Night.
Okay, those in listener land, join us next Wednesday. Same great show, yes, but same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. New guest, great chat. Join us. Rest of the week. Be creative. Good night, all.